Second Interlude. 22. What is it all about? An imaginary conversation between a reader and the author. Reader, your book is all very disturbing. What is this UFO business all about? What are they doing here invading our airspace? Who are they, anyway? I understand there have been hundreds of reported landings. Why don't they ask permission to land? They are infringing both our national and international laws. Author. Neither did we ask permission to land on the moon. Reader. Actually, I have read in other books of UFO nauts taking samples of water from our lakes and stealing plants. You state they have taken our animals, as well as some human beings. Author. Yes. However, won't we do the same? We have already brought back rock samples from the moon. No doubt if we find some animals on one of the planets, we will pinch a few of the equivalent of their steers and sheep, or whatever they have. When we do bring them back, no doubt our experts will look them over, and they will end their days in our zoos. Maybe, we'll catch one or two of the natives, too, and bring them in for questioning. Reader. Yes, but these entities that appear to people. They seem so varied. Such extraordinary sizes. Some are 11 feet tall, and others are only 3 feet in height, or less. Author. On our planet, there are people of varying sizes. Some by our standards are very tall, and then, in Africa, there are pygmies of very small stature. So, from elsewhere, we must expect similar differences in size. You must also take into account the amount of gravity on a planet. This influences the growth of both plants and animal life. In fact, as the visitors may be coming from not only our whole physical universe containing billions of star systems, but possibly from invisible universes as well, it is more than likely that some of them may be taller than our own species, and some smaller. After all, there is evidence that in antediluvian times there were giants on the earth. Reader. Yes, that sounds feasible. But, I don't like the way they are all over the place now. Why are they taking such an intense interest in us at this time? Author. Well, there are records that they have always been around all through history. It is true that since the end of the last World War, they have intensified their visits. This is only speculation, but they may have reasoned, since we let the bomb off that our first ventures into space would follow soon afterwards, since nuclear fission gave us the key. Therefore, they decided to watch Earth people more closely. After all, up till then, we had been content to coast along for hundreds of years, without much of a technology. Reader. I'm not sure if I go along with that theory. It all looks like a great build-up to an invasion, or takeover of our planet. Did I not read in an earlier book of yours, that there were some entities around the Earth who are hostile to us? Author. Yes, there are known to be some who are not exactly friendly. They are alleged to emanate from an invisible area pertaining to this planet. Several other ufologists have advanced this view in books and magazine articles. However, these unpleasant entities are not the real sky people. Reader. The extrasensory powers that UFO nauts possess seem rather frightening. I mean levitating, materializing and dematerializing, and the ability to walk through walls. That sort of thing. In any case, it does seem rather hard to swallow. Author. I did mention the early saints. The Vatican has some pretty authentic records, you know. Don't forget too, that there are a number of yogis in Tibet and other places credited with some quite remarkable feats of this nature. For so long, humanity has regarded itself as the apex of all being, that it comes as rather a shock to learn that there possibly could be an alien race, capable not only of having had space travel for millennia, but also able to perform extrasensory feats such as you have mentioned, as a normal way of life. Actually, it is all a matter of understanding. If you understand the laws of life and the way in which things are done, then you are at ease. There is no fear. It is like the first time you try to ride a bicycle. You probably fall off. Possibly, you are afraid of it for a time. Certainly, you are not at ease in regard to riding it. Then you learn how to balance yourself on the bicycle and your fear goes. Reader. I see what you mean. However, are you sure the UFO people are not planning to invade us? Author. It is my contention that they put us here originally, and literally, seated us. So, obviously they would have a very special interest in us. It is very likely that they have been watching over their product ever since, judging by the reports of UFOs down the centuries. In a way, we have been in quarantine. You see, when humanity was made, it was an unknown quantity. The makers did not know for certain how the result would turn out. Reader? Makers? I always thought that God made our world, but you are talking of the makers. What do you mean? Author. Read the next few chapters in the book. They contain a concept which you must weigh up, and judge for yourself. Of course, there is a supreme being, God, above all others. However, the manufacture of our physical universe, including this world and humanity, came about through, well, you had better read it for yourself. Part 4, A Cosmic Concept. 23. The Manufacture of the Microcosm. We are going to put forward here a concept, which is possibly outrageous, and may run against a lot of accepted ideas and prejudices. This, of course, always happens with any new concepts that are on a collision course with accepted thought. However, we are not asking you to necessarily accept these ideas in their entirety, but to give them a little house room in the recesses of your minds. Treat the whole of this section, if you like, as pure speculation. Broadly speaking, this concept goes right back to source. It does not just deal with the origins of mankind on this little mud ball in space, but embraces the beginnings of our whole physical universe, as well as all the invisible ones, too. In short, the whole complete omniverse. It is a pretty ambitious concept. Mind-stretching in its cosmic approach. Please remember that we are not trying to ram these ideas down anyone's throat. We admit a little bias towards them. Naturally, anyone producing such a cosmology is inclined in its favor. The reason for including this concept here is that it has a great bearing on the eternal subject, the continuous visitations of people from other realms to our planet. Now, as stated earlier, we must go back to original source. In short, we must go back to God. At this stage, some of you will ask in exasperation, why must we bring in such matters? The plain answer is that it has a lot to do with our case. Some of us believe and know that there is a God, call him, her or it, what you will. Almighty God, great architect, principle, original primal energy, or whatever. In this dissertation we will use the term the Creator. For a start, we will postulate that the Creator created man, and nothing else. We are not talking here about humans, but real man. These men have been called the sons of God. They were created perfect in spirit form or, if you like, as pure divine energy. They were capable of operating in 4 universes of divine mind. These 4 universes were those of creative mind, analytical synthetic mind, emotion, and form. So you see that original man was built on the square. These 4 attributes embrace all the other subdivisions of mind. The sons of God, known in Hebrew literature as the Elohim, were capable of taking form, and manifesting in any of these cosmic universes of mind. These men were completely balanced in the use of their minds, unlike humans who, generally speaking, live to a great extent on their emotions. Actually, humans are based chiefly in the emotional universe of divine mind, and there is a reason for that, as we shall see later. Now, these sons of God were also capable of divine creation, which was their natural heritage, being who they were, the sons of their father. So, they followed in their father's footsteps, as he would have wished, and used their inherent creative abilities. They, in turn, created universes. They were not only sons of God, but gods themselves, though respecting their father as omniscient. Of course, some bright person may ask, who created God? We would suggest that he has always been present. However, there may be a continuous flow of sons of God being created from various fathers, and possibly, the Almighty God we commune with, may not be the original one. We are on very controversial ground here. Indeed, we did state earlier that this was a mind-stretching exercise. In my first book, The Sky People, it was suggested that Jehovah, the God of the Old Testament, was one of the Elohim. In fact, that the Jehovah was not just one person, but a race of gods. Furthermore, that the Jehovah, along with some of the other Elohim, had actually manufactured the chemical universe in which we live and have our being. All real artists experiment, and try to express themselves in different ways. Some brilliant ones have, at first, what appear to be failures. If we state here that the formation of the chemical universe, and the subsequent manufacture of humanity was an initial failure, we do not mean to be discourteous or blasphemous to the Jehovah who formed it. What we are writing here runs completely against all accepted beliefs. To recap, we are suggesting that the original Creator spawned in a spiritual manner sons of God, capable of creating universes. 2. That the Jehovah, a race of gods, part of the Elohim, formed the chemical universe we live in, and introduced the necessary particles to produce life. Subsequently, several attempts were made to manufacture intelligent forms, as we will see in the next chapter. We have already stated that the Elohim, the sons of God, were capable of taking form in any of the 4 universes of divine mind. We are going to put forward our case that the Elohim formed the chemical universe, inside the cosmic emotional universe of mind. Another way of looking at what has been outlined here, is to appreciate that the 4 cosmic universes of mind, the creative, the analytical synthetic, the emotional and form, make up the macrocosm, and our chemical universe, occupying part of the macrocosmic emotional universe, is the cosmic microcosm. The 4 original universes are often referred to in symbolic literature, alchemy, for instance, as earth, air, fire, and water. Early scientific thought tried to find exact reproductions of them in the basic substance of the chemical world. The emotional universe from which the chemical derived is called the element water. Sometimes, it is referred to as the Great Sea, and in this connection, chemical matter is relatively considered to be frozen out of it like ice. Although the analogy is not quite perfect, it will serve to promote a certain degree of understanding. Every old religion, as we shall see, gives that creating race of gods who were made in the cosmic 4, by the one true God, credit for organizing the microcosm out of the waters, or the mother aspect of the 4 quarters of the primordial cosmos. According to the priests of Heliopolis in ancient Egypt, for example, the primeval 4 appeared in the waters, one pair at a time, as the offspring and grandchildren of the first spirit, the Creator, who became the high God by his act of creation. Once the high God had established his order and peopled it with man, he withdrew himself, or entered no further into the work of creation. The microcosm was then produced by the 4, personified as Shu and Tephunt, Geb, and Nut. Nut was sky or space, and gave birth to 5 great children, Osiris and Isis, Seth and Nephthys, and the elder Horus. It is not difficult to see in all this the 4 cosmic elements at work, and it is particularly interesting to notice how, when the microcosm is formed by the Great Mother, Nut, the scene of the drama shifts into it. The secondary influences of the 4, along with the microcosm itself, become the 5 great children who were born to Nut, after she had given birth to the stars. All the rest of the story becomes a history of the secondary creation, and of mankind's evolution within it. The book of Genesis in the Bible does not give us such dramatic detail about the birth of the microcosm, but nevertheless, the basic ingredient is there in the sentence, "The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." The original text read and, "The Spirit of the Elohim moved upon the face of the waters." In another book we referred to the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Quiche Maya. Its title means Book of the Community, or Book of the Council. It calls humanity on earth, the made man, and points out how he was made by a cosmic race of man that came into being, and had a long history of its own, before the chemical world was brought into existence. In fact, it credits some of this cosmic race with the very fabrication of our chemical universe. The book opens with a description of the universe, before the creation of material things or mankind. Like the book of Genesis, the story begins before the appearance of the earth, and tells us there was only calm sea, and the empty sky. All was still, silent and dark, except for the space immediately surrounding a group of divine beings. This area was illuminated by their shining. These beings were resting in the waters, and the book enumerates them in pairs. There is considerable similarity here to the story already given from ancient Egypt. They were the creator and the maker, Tipu, and Gukamats, the 4 of highest rank. With them were Ealom, those who conceive and give birth, who are called the forefathers, although one of them was thought of as being female, according to the system of arranging these causal beings in male and female couples, a system as old as Egypt, Tibet and the earliest Hindu thought. There was also present with these beings a group of three others, which the translator of the book associates with the Christian triune God, and not unwisely. These three do the actual work of creation under the supervision of Tipu and Gukamats, by command of the Creator and Maker. Tipu and Gukamats formulate the plans for creation, but it is the heart of heaven, the three, who perform the actual function of making all earthly things, and mankind. The three personalities are Hurakan, Chippy Kakula, and Rex Kakula. All are associated through the meaning of their names with lightning and thunder, as the Hebrew Yahweh or Jehovah, and the name of the chief among them has been adapted into several languages to describe a violent type of tropical storm, the hurricane. They always work as a unit, and the three together are often referred to by the name of the principal member, Hurakan, who is called the arranger. After much meditation, discussion and long deliberation, Tipu and Gukamats foresee the coming of dawn, and the appearance of man. Then they plan the creation, says the Popol Vuh, and Hurakan, the heart of heaven, arranged it in the darkness and in the night. When all was prepared, Tipu and Gukamats spoke the commanding words, and the earth began to appear from the surrounding waters. The Tibetans, too, while recognizing and worshipping a supreme being, whom they call Vairakana, also believed in the macrocosm with its other universes, as well as a microcosm. They too understood the fourfold cosmos and did its many inhabitants. The Haranians and the Sumerians both taught that the supreme God made the high heavens, the macrocosm or fourfold cosmos, and that the microcosm was made by some of his sons, the inhabitants of the macrocosm. They recognized the waters as a symbol of the source from which the microcosm was made, and that is why they practiced baptism as a ritual of purification, and as a token of the eventual return of the lesser secondary creation to the mother universe, the cosmic emotional, from whose substance they were made. The practice of baptism has been carried on by Christians too, although the original meaning has been partially lost. We have described how all these people had in common the tradition of a Big Four, which played a very important part in the creation of this particular chemical universe. All these ancient peoples believed that after the Supreme God had created the cosmos and peopled it with his sons, that these divine beings, or at any rate, some of them, in their turn, made the chemical universe. This act in the ancient tradition was personified by four divine beings, representing the four original universes, or the fourfold cosmos. We stated that the second verse of chapter 1 of the book of Genesis, King James, the first translation, read, "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." We were so bold as to remind you that in the older Hebrew translation the words read, "And the Spirit of the Elohim moved upon the face of the waters." Now, this difference is all important. In the Hebrew, the word Elohim means gods, or divine beings. Do you see now that when rendered correctly, this account of the creation of the chemical universe ties in with those of the Kish Maya and of the ancient Egyptians, each of whom described divine beings resting in the waters? We can say, therefore, that the ancient tradition of a supreme being, of the fourfold cosmos, the peopling of that cosmos or macrocosm with divine beings, and the subsequent making by these beings of a microcosm inside one area of the cosmos, the waters or matrix, is inherent in the most ancient traditions and religions of the world. It has survived down to our times, but it is literally buried beneath the stultifying blankets of misinterpretation, forgetfulness, and ignorance. So far, we have concentrated to a great extent on the birth of the microcosm, our chemical universe, within the macrocosm. In our next chapter, we will give our attention to the advent of humanity.